pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Could you please make sure that your phones are either turned off or on silent? Okay, we have one person, unless somebody marked it incorrectly, to speak at public forum. Everybody else is here for Spain or because Mr. Clement mandates you to be here, right? Okay. All right, Mrs. Camacho, you have the floor for 3 minutes if you're ready.
Okay, yeah.
You're welcome to stand wherever you want.
Okay.
Or sit, I guess, if you want to.
So good evening to everyone. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to share my concerns with the board. What I would like to address is the issue of bullying, harassment, and poor student behavior in the school. The school's mission statement, which the board also abides by, is that the Red Creek Central School District will create a safe and supportive learning environment for all of our students. This is not the case in this district. It also states that it will instill strong character traits. This also isn't being done. The district calls upon the character of its students in the handbook and asks them to use moral and ethical values to help make the school a safer place. The problem is that all students and even a member of the board doesn't have ethics or morals. They are making the school an unsafe space for some students. If we're asking our students to be honest and to step up and do the right thing about reporting threats, harassment, and bullying, then this district needs to step up and address the concerns appropriately and in a timely manner. The district vows in the handbook to protect students from harassment and states that there is a zero tolerance policy, but that doesn't always come to fruition. I feel like the district is out of touch with what is happening inside of its buildings. I have heard many instances from my children, schoolmates of theirs, instances of racism, bullying, harassment occurring at the schools, some in front of teachers or staff members, and never being addressed. When students do step up and ask, they face criticism, retaliation, unending questioning, which for those that don't know, if a student makes an accusation, then they are allowed to be questioned by their offender and the offender's parents with no protection or parent available to them in the room. So they have to go in with only the principal to chaperone and act in their interest. Making a complaint against another student is basically asking a victim in this district to be re-victimized over and over again. The current system is designed to protect the rights of the offender and not of the victim. Although the policies and laws are nicely worded and handbooks claim to be in the interest of protecting students from abuse and harm, the current system punishes anyone who makes a report, which is clearly visible to the other students in the district. So all this system is doing is encouraging students not to make reports. And that is the exact opposite of what the policies and the laws are intended to do. There was a study completed by Yale this year. 1 in 5 high school students seriously considered attempting suicide in 2023. Suicide deaths have increased 62% from 2007 to 2021 for people aged 10 to 24. And I think we all know the link to suicide rates and bullying. So this subject needs to be taken seriously. My message to parents is that while the school is responsible, while our kids are in the building, you ultimately are responsible for that human. If your child is guilty of these behaviors, let them face their due consequence. Once the message is clear to students that this behavior will not be tolerated, we might have a chance of reducing the amount. While I understand the natural inclination of any parent is to protect their child, put yourself in the position of the parents or the student that have been offended. They're scared to come to school, that's unable to concentrate in class, that is no longer participating in their extracurricular activities because of the offender. Every member of this school board has taken a vow to uphold the rules and regulations of the district. They have committed to the advancement of every single student in the district. And if any member is unable to be impartial and puts their own interests, personal agenda, and uses their authority as a board member to inappropriately influence happenings at school, they shouldn't be allowed to continue to hold that seat. And fellow board members shouldn't condone this behavior from their peers. Tonight, I appeal to the school board and administrators to take a step back, really understand what is happening right under your own noses, and make an active commitment to improve the culture of the district and uphold the values that are touted in the district and board mission statements. Let's send the message to students and the community that violence has no place in the Red Creek School District.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, we're going to move into our presentation. The first presentation we have tonight, Mrs. Pitts, Mr. Wallace. I'm going to have Mr. Wallace introduce Mrs. Pitts and some of our students that had the opportunity to just travel abroad to Spain. It's been a long endeavor. I'm sure Mrs. Pitts and the team can talk about that. So without further ado, I'll turn it over to Mr. Wallace.
Mrs. Pitts, Alan, Tessa, come on up, please. Before we start, I want to let everybody know we had an awesome band holiday concert here yesterday, and some of these people did an awesome job in the concert that are here, and I want to congratulate them on that. But we're here to talk about your Spain trip. So, so you guys went. I'm going to move back. I'm going to operate the pictures, and if you guys could, if you would talk to the board about your experiences and what you thought. And the pictures are great. You did some great things. So, please.
Here we are in the air.
Like putting you on the spot.
Colin, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah.
For those who may not know, I am Colin Thompson. I went on the Spain trip right there. And I've also gone on a previous trip of Mrs. Pitts, the Costa Rica trip.
I'm Tessa Crawford, and I did not go on the Costa Rica trip. I did go on the Spain trip. Probably somewhere in the picture.
I think they used a lot of the pictures at the very, very beginning. Mostly Barcelona.
So is this you eating?
Yeah.
Okay.
Can't even see which part of the restaurant it is.
So this was that picture was one of the first days when we landed. That was we kind of hit the ground running, and it was very late at night, and everyone was really tired, but we all had a really good time, and we were able to just kind of eat together and hang out for the first day.
We were all so sleep deprived.
And into a soccer game.
Yeah,
You
some
two
of
were
us
at a
went to
soccer
a
game.
soccer game. Some of us, I mean, it was just hot when we got there. Everyone sweating. We were just tired. And so being able to sit down at that dinner and just decompress from all the traveling was so nice.
So what is this picture from right here?
Oh, this is your specialty.
So this was like the Gaudi Plaza, the park, and there were 3 different types of houses in the park, and this was when we were walking around, this was one of the bridges, I think it was. And our tour guide Alethea, she brought us around, and one of the specialized tour guides brought us on a tour and explained to us what all of the houses were in all of the background.
They had a tour guide who was with them 24/7, but then at the Roman ruins, Gaudi,
Did you have a different one in the Gaudi? I wasn't with you guys because I was back with a 6th student, but, how many specialized tour guides? You had the one in the Roman ruins.
We have
We had 3. We had the one at the Prado, which we didn't like so much, but all in all, they were all pretty good.
I'd say so.
And Alicia was amazing. She was from the Barcelona region, or not from Barcelona, she was from the Basque region, and she was pretty awesome. This is a soccer game, actually, that you guys went to.
Oh yeah, it was so cool. I mean, everything was cool, but this was especially amazing because even I, who I don't really participate in soccer or anything related to football. I just kind of enjoyed being there in the moment with a couple of my buddies, and we ordered some food in Spanglish, and then we just enjoyed this really cool game.
How much Spanish did you guys have to use? At the game, especially, because I was with you.
I mean, we had to say orange in Spanish because we wanted to get Fanta orange.
It's more Gaudi, more Parkway.
Yeah, so this was at the park. This was like one of the last places we went when we were leaving the park.
Tessa's an expert on Gaudi because she did a lot of research in Spanish class before even the trip about Casavato and Sagrada Familia, which we didn't get to go into, but they got to see the outside. This looks like more, is this coming off the steps?
I think
It's the stadium.
The stadium? Okay, I was gonna say I didn't recognize that.
Mrs. Pitts, who took these pictures?
A lot of, it's a
Like
mix.
the adults?
It's the adults, yeah. So it's a mix. This guy is mostly the photographer, but Mrs. Hurlbutt and myself take a lot of
They're
pictures.
great
But
photos.
yeah, we did some interviewing on the buses. He did a lot of the photos, and Chelsea did a lot of the photos.
What is this building here?
I don't know.
I don't know.
Okay.
Rich, what's this picture?
I think that was in person.
That's the foyer. I know that one.
I don't remember.
Was that the day I was back in
The,
We had a 6 students, so I missed the second day.
I think this was when we were leaving the stadium.
Okay.
Because I think, I don't know.
It's really pretty.
I don't think we like stopped here or anything. I think it was probably just
Just a
on the
pretty
way.
building.
a lot of the architecture.
Yeah, they had to basically book it. How'd you get back from the stadium to the restaurant? Did you all walk?
We walked.
walked to
Look
back
at
to the
how-
hotel.
Oh,
wow.
there's.
Oh yeah, this was Gaudi's like, what was it, his house?
It was,
Or-
yeah, it was gonna be for rich people, especially, like,
This was like the kind of like hotel
yeah.
thing. But it was like a big thing with dragons there. It's like, there's like this like old story about, I don't remember exactly what it's about, but in a lot of the architecture there's like hidden dragons around and they're supposed to be like good luck and
Like,
stuff
it's-
like that.
a little iffy, but you can see like these would be the scales at the very top. This is like the roof, obviously, and from the front you can see like scales, and then on the inside there's like a fireplace, and it has the scales going around down. It's really cool.
No straight lines whatsoever.
Not a single one. No weird angles.
On anything he did. Oh, this was cool, the kind of the tunnel.
This was like underneath the bridge thing that was shown before, but
Yeah. Oh, the subway. We took the subway. We took taxis. We took the subway. We walked a lot. We did Barcelona, Madrid, and Sevilla, and we did Merida and Zaragoza too. So 5 cities. Oh, that's in Castilla.
Bones Festes was Catalonian, right?
Yeah.
For happy holidays. The lights are phenomenal in Spain. Like, Mrs. Pitts shows us a lot of these advertisements for some of like the like
The lottery.
the lottery
Yeah.
that has a huge cultural impact in Spain. And there's always so many lights, and you just don't think that it's always like gonna be like that. It's just for the commercial, but there's so many lights. It's very beautiful.
It was pretty. Oh, there you guys are with the lights. Oh, there you guys are.
Oh, that's a great picture.
this was also at the house. That I don't know.
It's like, it looks like we're walking in
That's
Barcelona.
restaurant, wasn't it?
Oh, that's Los Ramblas. Oh, that was, okay, so when they were at the soccer game, the students who were with me and the nurse and Alicia, the tour guide, we did a cathedral and we were walking around a cathedral, and every cathedral has a big nativity. A nativity is more important than a tree. So there's nativities in every city. There's nativities, and this happened to be a cathedral we went to check it out, and there were some cathedrals. I think that's what we're doing there. I don't think you took this one. I think I took this one.
So do you give students options of activities while they're on the trip?
Well, one of our students, Ada Nash, spearheaded, he found that there was a soccer game, Barcelona versus Las Palmas, and he's like, can we go? So this guy and I spent a lot of time trying to figure out if it was feasible. We got ready, got tickets, we had Mrs. Harbaugh come over. We're like, you have to come over right now, we have to buy tickets. Well, we finally could buy tickets, and we knew exactly when the times were, because it was fluctuating. It was like, oh, we're not, like on the website, it's like,
Yeah.
the game is to be announced, and it was probably gonna be this day, but not, and there was quite a few students who really wanted to go. So
that's
once we
nice.
could purchase tickets, we had to buy them on his phone and Mrs. Hurwitz, but we had to buy them in like groups of 6, so the price jumps up $100 per ticket. So it was kind of fun, but so we did give them an option. But we give them free time too for options. They all did lunch on their own and got braver as time went on, and yeah.
Great.
During
So
the
there's a whole bunch of pictures and they're all on the website. Let's do a couple more.
What do you want to say, Tessa?
Oh, I was gonna say during the free time we get to like work on our Spanish and talking to native Spanish speakers, which is very scary. And it's very awkward when you would like say a whole sentence in Spanish and they'd respond back in English. You don't have the accent, so they wouldn't know. But there was one time where me and a couple of my friends went out to lunch and they spoke Spanish to us the whole time because they didn't speak any English. And I kind of realized how much Spanish I actually knew when I was there, and I knew more than I thought. So
That's great.
that was nice to learn.
You do know a lot of this radio. Did you hear yourself talking?
Mrs. Pitts, do you plan on doing a book for this trip?
I am. I'm working on it. I'm having trouble with Facebook's uploading the photos for right now. I have it all, the layout all done. I'm just having trouble getting.
Well, even if you don't come
photos.
back, you should let us borrow it so we could just glance at it sometime.
We'll have it. We'll have a copy for the school. What?
And I had thought maybe that they could also present this to the students.
Yeah.
We could do this sometimes, where they could present their work to the students when they have it assembled.
Do you want to do that?
Yeah.
Okay, you guys. We're gonna do that. I'm gonna hide in the back. But, yeah.
Colin, you indicated that you went to both Costa Rica and Spain. Which did you like better?
So my answer to this, because
I
Mrs.
asked
Pitts
him.
also asked me this question, was that my pockets loved Costa Rica. Spain costed a lot of money because of souvenirs. It's almost Christmas time. I wanted to get a lot of Christmas presents for my family, but the main difference, I wouldn't say one's better than the other. Costa Rica is a lot more active. I think better for me when I was way younger, 2 years ago.
2 years ago.
And now in my old state, it's nice to walk around all these cool places but not be too active.
Okay.
Both really awesome.
Colin, were you the only one that's been on both trips that was in that group?
I believe so. There was also Liam, Braden, Manley, Megan, Marissa.
Oh, so quite a few.
Yeah, quite a couple of people that were second timers, which was really cool because like we had our own little group, and then we'd be like, oh yeah, well in Costa Rica this would be so much different, and everyone else would be like, we wouldn't know anything about that, but cool.
But you guys also were a wealth of information, like for the other kids, and for the like for the nurse, she needed, she hadn't traveled in a long time, so you guys kind of helped her and helped the newbies.
Yeah.
Right, so I thought that was really cool because they knew the pattern, they knew, okay, get with your airport buddy, and I'm like, oh yeah, we got this. It's good.
Well, thank you very much. Do you have any questions for the students?
Thank you very much.
I have one thing I just like to say.
Yeah.
Just Mr. Pitts, partly for the photographer.
He's gonna go by this guy for tonight.
I just wanted to say to just a couple things. The tour guide was very impressed with how much our students knew as far as their Spanish
And history.
and their history and the knowledge of the culture, and how much they appreciate that. They appreciate that when you go there that you try to speak their language and that they know, because not a lot of all the tour groups that go try to speak Spanish or know the history. So part of that is because of her. But she's not going to say that, but I'll tell you that's why. And she also just made the comment that every hotel,
Every tour guide.
every tour guide, any place that we went was impressed by our students.
Just how nice they are. Just really great
Their
people.
behavior, how polite, being punctual, time.
Speaking Spanish.
Speaking Spanish.
And just knowing, just,
Yeah.
They knew their way around the
Impressed.
world, yeah.
She was extremely impressed.
she told us she called her mother to tell her mother how amazing our students are, the Red Creek students, so,
Yeah, so she's impressed.
yeah.
I thought you guys should.
Yeah.
Yeah, we tried to reject her, retirement, but. Thank you guys very much.
Well, that's gonna be a tough act.
But yeah,
We've really,
Thank you so much.
thank you,
we've
Tessa.
really set Miss Ventura up for a difficult task,
Thank you, guys.
transitioning from,
Exciting is Spain.
trip to Spain, but for our second presentation tonight, Ms. Ventura, our new director, is here this evening. Wanted to get her an opportunity to get in front of you folks into our community and just provide an opportunity to talk about our special education department. And so I'm going to turn it over to Ms. Ventura and go.
Thank you. So obviously not as exciting as Spain. It's kind of hard to top that one. I really just kind of wanted to start off by talking about, what our demographics look like here in our district in terms of what classifications, our special ed students might have across the different buildings, just because I don't know if we've ever really talked about it a whole heck of a lot before. So in UP K to 5, this is what our demographics look like. All of our common wheels obviously are blended and mixed because we would assume that not every student is classified as the same thing. Because every student is different and every student has different needs. The majority of our students, UP K to 5, are speech and language impaired. We see that a lot with younger kiddos because, when they're coming into school and they're learning and they're acquiring new knowledge, speech tends to be a huge concern that we have initially, just because we're trying to tease out whether there's a true learning disability or it's simply, a speech impairment. And you see that a lot when you do like the CPSE to CSE transition of, the little kiddos coming in, they're 4 years old. It might be really hard to understand them, their articulation level, super low. And then we work on that and we decide whether or not they can make that transition. We have students, with emotional disabilities, learning disabilities, students with autism, students that may have multiple disabilities, students that might be intellectually disabled, and we're able to serve all of these kiddos in our district. Moving up to the middle school level, we have our grades 6 through 8. You see there's a huge shift in the cog. It's just because as they get older, we're able to really discern what their needs are a lot more, and we're able to have a better student profile. They may have gone through a couple of rounds of reevaluations, and we're able to better suit their needs because we can say, that student may have had a speech or language impairment when they were younger, but we're really noticing that it truly is a learning disability in the areas of reading and writing. And that helps allow us to better serve our kiddos because we can say, all right, they may need a consultant teacher for English and social studies because those are really literacy-driven courses. And then again, 9 through 12. As you can see, things just keep shifting and moving, and that's okay. But what I'm really happy to say is that all of these kiddos on these 3 cogs, they're all kids that we're serving right now in our district and supporting with our continuum and through the sort of resources that we have. And then we have our out-of-district kids. So these may be kids, there's a variety of needs. It could be a mental health need that they maybe need a more restrictive setting just because we don't have the level of counseling or in-district support. They really, they have those really high-level needs that basic district supports don't meet. It could be something that intellectually, they may need just, greater levels of smaller classes, really pared down information because they may be like 3, 4, maybe even 5 grades below grade level. And then sometimes, we have like students with physical impairments that may need like just greater specialized programming. So those are our kiddos that are out of district. Our current continuum contains consultant teacher, special class, and out of district. So consultant teacher, these are teachers that work kindergarten through 12th grade. Our UPK program is technically not considered a consultant teacher program because it is a special class within the integrated setting. So it's a special class setting, but these kids go to pre-K with all the rest of their peers. The great thing about consultant teacher is that it's within the general education setting. So we have students with IEPs mixed in with general education students. Special class, we have 2 different types of special class available right now. Our 12-1, 3-1 classroom in grades 3 through 5 is a shift. It was a 15-1 at the beginning of the year, and I have shifted that to kind of meet the needs of the demographics that we have within our building, and also continue to grow in our capacity to meet the needs of our students within our district. In grades 9 through 12, we have 15-1 classrooms. So those are not within the general education setting. So both of those just mean that it's only special education students in those classrooms. There are not general education students in those classrooms. And then our out-of-district kiddos, these are available to UPK to 12. We have a variety of different placements that we can see both through BOE, Hillside, private institutions to meet the needs of those kids that might not fit into any of the classes within our continuum here. And those are all considered special class, not general education settings as well. Along with all of the resources that we have available to us, we have an enormous amount of social emotional support staff here in our district, which I think is phenomenal. Coming into this district, I was really, really impressed with how many contracts and how many community-based resources we are able to get in and to provide to our students, because we have a counselor at every building, we have a district-wide social worker, we have connections with the Wayne Behavioral Health Network, we have drug and substance abuse counselors, social emotional learning interventionists, and community schools coordinators, all that are housed right here in our district. These staff members provide a wide variety of mental health and social emotional supports to our kiddos, including drug and alcohol counseling, mandated IEP counseling, connecting parents and families to community resources. We have our multi-tiered systems of supports that all of these members actively participate in. RAMS reports, small group counseling, and this is only just a small snippet of everything that they do all day long, really. This year, I am so proud to say that our team has done so much work. Sometimes I think they look at me and they're like, Amanda, what else are you going to ask us to do? But they know that it's all for a good cause and they are really enjoying everything that I'm throwing at them. So the special education team in particular has really engaged in a lot of trainings to strengthen their understanding of what it means to create well-written, aligned, and compliant IEPs. They've participated in several professional development sessions on this, and their third is going to happen in January. They've come back with nothing but positive thinking, and you know, I'm hearing teachers reflect and say, it takes a lot of time to collect this data. I'm like, you're right, it does. But that's great because they're being thoughtful and it's reflected in their IEPs when I hold a CSE. And I'm just really proud of the work that they've done so far. So along with that, I've conducted a lot of program reviews to ensure that the programming on students' IEPs are appropriate. Our goal is always to put kiddos in the least restrictive environment. So if I have a student who's really doing well and thriving, a special class environment might not be appropriate for them, especially at the high school when we have a little bit more flexibility. So we've been able to have so many of those conversations already this year, and the teachers have been really reflective and thoughtful on whether or not we're helping or hindering students. Our goal is always to help them and put them in the least restrictive environment. And as I already said, our elementary special class has shifted models. That's just to make sure that we can help a wide variety of demographics. So some classes you may hear that it's a 611 social skills setting for students with autism only. Or you may hear it's an 811 for behavioral needs only. Our goal is to try to encompass students of varying profiles. So it might be students with autism, it might be students that are cognitively lower than others in the general education population, so that we can have as many kiddos from Red Creek in our building as possible. In the future, we're going to continue to build staff capacity, so my goal really is to get more of that targeted professional development out, not only to the special education staff, but our faculty members as a whole. So we're going to continue work on writing goals and IEPs to make sure, again, that alignment is there, that the things that students need are the things that we're tracking and really reporting on. Function-based thinking, every behavior serves a function, and that training has gone out to every single staff member at this point, I think, if I remember correctly. It's been a very busy year. And that goal is just to everyone to understand that a kid's not acting up in your class just to act up. there's a function that behavior is serving to them, whether it to be getting attention, avoiding something, escaping something. And it really just helps us as professionals learn and grow how we can support the whole child and not just a snapshot that we might have on a piece of paper. And then of course we're working towards supporting students of varying behavioral and cognitive needs. We would obviously like to continue expanding our program. When we did, our special education program review, one of the things I mentioned was expanding our continuum. And I completely agree. I think that was one of the first conversations that Mr. Van Orman and I had when I started here in July. So we're going to look to continue to build our continuum. My goal is to hopefully have a 12-1-3-1 classroom for our K through 2 students as well, so that some of those kiddos who maybe in the past would have had a trajectory that looked like they were going to end up out of district, we can keep them here and we can have, a classroom for them in an environment that's supportive of their needs. And along with those things, just continuing to build the partnerships that we have across Wayne County. We've opened up those classrooms to other districts should they have a need, and some of them have taken us up on those offerings, both in UPK and our 12-1-3-1 classroom for 3 through 5. And we would love to continue to foster those relationships because, especially in the world of special ed, the more that we can help each other, the better. And it's always great to have somebody that you can do. So that's all I have for you guys. Do any of you have any questions?
I feel like I have a lot of questions, but I won't ask them all. You did a great job of kind of summarizing it, so thank you, and we're glad you're here.
I do have a question.
Yeah.
So, a percentage or number, how many children do we send out of district?
20.
Okay. UPK through 12 or K through 12 or?
UPK through 12.
Okay.
UPK through 12 across the district is 20 students currently.
Okay. Is that on the rise, do you know?
It has increased in the
Okay.
past couple of years. My goal in expanding our continuum is to hopefully decrease that.
Okay.
And expanding like those professional developments, how staff are trained. My overarching goal is to keep as many of our kiddos here as we can. Because they're Red Creek kiddos, they deserve to go to school with other Red Creek kiddos.
So an out-of-district student, do they see the same timeline for review for what their needs are as an in-district student?
Yeah, it is legally mandated every 3 years that a student go through the reevaluation process, which includes all new psychological testing. If they receive like any sort of related service, we'll do an updated evaluation on that. And then at those reviews, especially if they're out of district, I lean heavily on those teams. So they're all invited, and they have to be, to the meeting, and we discuss how they're doing. Did they, are they adapting well to their new environment? Do we think that maybe it's been a couple years? Do we think maybe it's time to start reintegrating them into the Red Creek setting? And all of those conversations happen every 3 years, and they have an annual review every year as well. So
is there a possibility of having those kind of conversations earlier than that review
Yeah.
time if we change what our capabilities are here?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah. And
So we're not locked into those
Nope.
dates? Okay.
No, and I've actually had a couple of conversations with some families already this year that are thinking, maybe it's time to give it a try.
Okay.
I tend to be the person that's always, let's give it a try, and if it fails, then at least we can say we gave it a shot first.
Okay.
Because I would just love to see our kids back here.
Thank you. Any other questions? It wasn't as bad as, it wasn't as good as Spain, but it wasn't bad, so.
Okay, you know what, I'll take that.
Thank you very much. So then you're up.
Perfect. So, again, just a quick update on our Red Creek MVP program. You'll see the list up there of names. There's over 40 of them again this month. Again, one of the highlights for me has really been taking a few moments out of my day and hand delivering those messages. Again, I brought some here tonight to read that I just kind of selected. One was for Mrs. Melkett. Mrs. Melkett's an 8th grade math teacher for us. It reads, Rachel's been amazing with my boys. She is patient and kind. She always communicates regularly and keeps me updated about behaviors and shares their successes. It is easy to see that she genuinely cares about them as people as well as being a terrific educator. One of our transportation members, Adam Rand, received a notice because he is a wonderful bus driver. He makes sure all the kids are taken care of and it's safe. He is a great coworker and always makes sure our fleet is safe and clean. And then one of our night custodians, Tracy Woodhams, Tracy is one of the hardest working people I have ever had the privilege of working with. She goes above and beyond to make sure her job is done to the absolute best of her ability. Tracy always has a smile on her face and a positive attitude. I have witnessed Tracy train other new custodians, taking them under her wing and showing them the ropes. Tracy is a true blessing to our district. So,
Those are great.
absolutely. The staff just light up, and I was commenting just this week when I was handing some out, walked into a couple classrooms, and I had the privilege of interrupting whatever class was going on, and I announced to the class, to the teacher, that I'm there to give out an MVP award, and oftentimes I'll equate it to like a Rams award for our students, especially for our younger students. And just about every room that we go in, it's a round of applause. Today, students were running up and giving teachers hugs when they got those messages. So just a great, this time of the year, it's a great uplifting little message for everybody. So just pleased to share the success of the program.
We should have stuck you in a different spot. Amanda, that was unfair for you. No, you went the way you were in the agenda.
It's okay, I'll just be the sandwiches. It's fine. I thought my stuff was interesting.
You did a great job. Okay, well, thank you very much and congratulations to the group from last month. All right, we're gonna move on to the C1, the regular meeting minutes for November 6th. Could I have a motion, please? Mrs. Allen, and a second by Mrs. Kaiser. Any questions, corrections? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, moving on. If somebody wanted to give me a motion for the financial
I'll make
reports.
a motion for the financial reports, D1 through 6.
Thank you, Mrs. Dingman.
I'll second it.
Thank you, Mrs. Decker. Any questions on this group? Are you ready?
Mrs. Kaiser,
Yes.
Mrs. Foltz,
Yes.
Mrs. Dingman,
Yes.
Mrs. Decker,
Yes.
Mr. Joyce,
Yes.
Mrs. Allen,
Yes.
and Mrs. Madigan.
Yes. Thank you. Moving on to E, I would take a motion for E1 through 4 with the exception of E31.
I'll make the motion.
Thank you, Mrs. Dingman, and a second by Mrs. Folds. There was a change for the removal of 7 through 11 on the appointments, in case anybody didn't have a chance to see that. From what I understand, they were actually already approved,
That's correct.
so they've been removed. Any other questions on this group?
I just have a question on E3 2. Will that position be posted like as soon as tomorrow?
Actually, tomorrow.
Okay, great.
Yes.
Any other questions?
Okay.
Yeah. When you're ready.
Mrs. Decker,
Yes.
Mr. Joyce,
Yes.
Mrs. Dingman,
Yes.
Mrs. Kaiser,
Yes.
Mrs. Allen,
Yes.
Mrs. Foltz,
Yes.
and Mrs. Madigan.
Yes. Yes. Okay, I would reluctantly take a motion for E31. Mrs. Folds, and a second for Mrs. Dingman. Mr. Van Orman, can
Yeah.
you come up with anything for Mrs. McIntyre?
Yeah, we're losing some good ones again, right? Unfortunately, this is kind of the time of the year where we are starting to see that teachers will be putting in their letters of resignation for purposes of retirement. This is another tough one. Michelle, 37 years, I believe, in our district. So super kudos to Michelle for everything. I have had the privilege of working with her for a long stretch of time when she was the eighth grade English teacher. But in addition to that, I think everybody in the middle school at that time referred to her as kind of the mom of the middle school. Not only did she herd the students and kind of make sure everybody was good on that end, she also did the same with the adults. So just a great, calm demeanor, a wonderful, insightful approach to problem solving, and the last couple of years, I think we've been fortunate enough to have Michelle step into a role as an instructional coach, mainly focused around our new teachers and kind of trying to get our new teachers into the quote-unquote Red Creek way. We couldn't think of somebody more appropriate to do that than Michelle. She just bleeds Red Creek. Her family has given so much of their time here. Michelle has served in many different capacities in her 37 years, and we're fortunate. All of our students are fortunate to have had her in those capacities, and we're sorry to see her go, and wish her well in the next endeavors of her life.
Anyone like to add anything to that?
Nearly 4 decades of making an impact on countless students, colleagues, and our entire school community. I'm certainly grateful for the years of service, leadership, and passion of her education, and she's certainly going to be missed.
It's getting a little depressing. Maybe Mrs. Devaney can say this for the people that are retiring that were not married when they were your teacher, and now they were married in here 40 years. So I would have to agree. She's just an amazing individual. So she'll be missed. Maybe Mr. Bitterman can rope her into coming back sometimes.
We got a good track record of that lately.
Any other comments? All right, when you're ready.
Mrs. Foltz?
Yes.
Mrs. Allen?
Yes.
Mrs. Kaiser?
Yes.
Mrs. Dingman?
Wishing her the best, but yes.
Mr. Joyce?
Yes.
Mrs. Decker? And Mrs. Madigan?
Yes, thank you. Okay, moving on to F, new business. Would someone like to make a motion for some Mrs. Foltz?
I'll make a motion for F1 through 15.
I'll second.
Second for Mrs. Dingman. It's quite a variety of a group, so open it up for questions.
Mr. Norm, I apologize. How did you want to handle number 2?
We'll do a double check on any of them, and if there's any that are missing, we'll bring them forward to the next meeting.
Okay. So approve what's here?
Yes, that would be my recommendation.
Thank you.
So, as it stands?
Correct.
Okay. Any other questions? When you're ready.
Mrs. Allen?
Yes.
Mrs. Dingman?
Yes.
Mrs. Decker? Mrs. Foltz?
Yes.
Mrs. Kaiser?
Yes.
Mr. Joyce?
Yes.
And Mrs. Madigan?
Yes. Thank you. Okay, administrative reports, any questions on those?
So sometimes in these, you'll see like goals, 3G, I'll kind of reference Mr. Wallace's 2A, 1D, 1A, and if you happen to have read those and said, "What the heck is that about?" So those relate to our strategic plan goals. So just, again, in an attempt to just kind of make that connection. It also helps us when we have to bring that strategic plan document back into play. It becomes living. It's not just something that's on the shelf. So this is, so if you see those numbers and letters, that's typically where that association would go to.
FYI is trying not to call me out. I did not make that connection, so I thought there were other documents I was looking for, so I'm sorry, Mr. Wallace. Any other questions? Okay, Mr. Van Orman?
Yeah, it's been a busy month. I know Mr. Wallace just mentioned the middle and high school band concert last night. December is always a very busy time for all of our concerts. So our music department, I wanted to give a shout out to our music department for all their dedication and hard work putting on outstanding performances. Kindergarten all the way through 12th grade. The auditorium is packed for each one of those concerts. So it's a great opportunity to showcase the skills and traits of all of our students and the hard work of everybody here. So just a big shout out at this time of the year for all their work.
And I think it's been great that we've been able to live stream them as well.
Yeah, it's, we get pretty good traction on those, you know, especially in the winter one when you're not sure about the weather. People that might have to travel far away or family that are out of town for various things, extended family, gives them a great opportunity. And who doesn't love, you know, tapping their toes to, you know, some good holiday tunes, so.
Wow.
You cannot argue with that.
I don't think you can argue with the way you just said it. So,
Again, the continuation, the adding on of our attendance and enrollment data, obviously with our attendance, it's kind of holding pretty good, over 93, 94%, somewhere in that range. Gets tricky this time of the year, starting this time of the year, especially with the littles when they start to come down with coughs and sniffles and things like that. Especially at the very youngest grades, as they're kind of their first exposure to mass amounts of germs. But we, you know, they practice hygiene activities in the elementary school to kind of reduce some of those. You know, enrollment. Again, we're down eight students from where we were last month. We're down, you know, quite a bit. 25, almost 25 from last year at this time. And I know we've been talking a little bit about some of the regionalization and some of the other initiatives from the state and the foundation aids, the possible changes in foundation aid from the Rockefeller Institute. You know, some of those foundation aid changes are going to be predicated by districts that are losing like 10% or more of their districts. The challenge, our argument with our lawmakers and politicians, is that in districts like us, a 10% reduction doesn't come in one grade level. So if we lose 10 kids, but it's one kid in each grade level, there's actually no change in our staffing or anything, but we stand to possibly lose foundation aid coming back to us based on those numbers. So, you know, it's right now we're in a really kind of a wait and see kind of a game. The Rockefeller Institute sent out their recommendations. It was a 300-page report. So pretty light reading for anybody that's interested. But the big summary behind it is that there's not real teeth in the Rockefeller report. The governor holds all the power at this point, so we still have to wait to see what the governor's budget numbers are going to look like. These foundation aid formulas are so complicated and there's so many different measurable pieces in there. This is one piece. So regarding how the governor chooses to accept or change or modify any of those pieces, it's going to require a whole new set of analysis around those things. But I know locally a lot of schools are kind of rallying behind some of that population change piece because, you know, if we're down to one kid in a grade level, there's no change for us oftentimes. So, you know, we have to be you know, kind of standing strong with kind of towing that rope with our policymakers. So this week I have a regional meeting with Senator Helming on this topic. So hopefully we can kind of get her up to speed and get her office's support and kind of rallying some of that information.
great, thank you. Okay, anybody have anything for their committee? Yeah, no? Anybody?
Policy committee has been working every month, reviewing. We have one that's regarding the community center that Mr. Venorman is going back and getting some revisions and having some folks review. And we should be talking about it next month.
Great. I'll say the school safety committee met today. I'm going to give some kudos to Mr. Smiley. He does a fantastic job in updating the group and dealing with an insane amount of questions on the fly from people like myself and Mr. Taylor. But no, he does a great job. So I think it's quarterly meetings for that group. And to sit through that, it's really nice to see how invested our team is in making sure that our kiddos are safe. So thank you, Mr. Smiley. And I just wanted to say, you know, every month I'm just absolutely amazed by this idea of this committee that we couldn't come up with a name for and didn't decide what it was going to do, and it seems to bring so much happiness to the district. So it's great that we've included that. So I just wanted to say that really quick.
Did you want to do your wellness?
Oh, do you have an update, Mrs. Kaiser?
I'm calling. I was trying to call her out on it.
Thank you for the Levin's gift card. So for those watching at home, we actually pay Mrs. Kaiser primarily to do her company.
That's a terrible update.
I believe it was for participation in a health and wellness program.
Oh, okay. So for those of you that will be participating in committees next year, remember, sign up for the wellness one because you get a gift card.
It will help your mind to shop at Wegmans.
All right, so anyway, moving on. Okay, so I-2, the Board of Education goals discussion, that was included with the handbook and things like that. We left that open. I did get a little bit of feedback. So those changes have been made, and hopefully Amanda will be nice enough to give us printed copies. It'll be in your binder for district goals, Board of Education goals, and the handbook as it stands right now, so it can be part of the binder. Again, the binder at least is a living document, so we'll be able to make changes when necessary if something comes up, you know, to include gift cards or something. And we can do that at that time, but at this point I didn't hear from anyone else for any further changes, so we'll be able to just kind of move forward and keep working on them when we can. Was there anything else before we move into executive session? Have anything for you? Okay. With that being said, then can I have a motion, please, to move an executive for a matter leading to appointment, employment, promotion, demotion, discipline, suspension, dismissal, or removal of a particular person or corporation? Mrs. Kaiser? Second by Mrs. Folds. Oh, thanks, I didn't see you. Thank you, guys.